Breaking news. China's economic crisis reaches critical point as U.S. tariffs cripple manufacturing sector. In an unprecedented economic crisis, Chinese factory owners are recording emotional pleas for help as their businesses collapse under crushing U.S. tariffs. The situation has escalated beyond initial predictions, exposing deep problems in the world's second-largest economy. U.S. tariffs, now at 145% on Chinese goods, have severely impacted China's export-driven economy. Factory owners face crisis as their primary market becomes increasingly inaccessible. "The American market was our oxygen," explains analyst Michael Chen. "No other country can absorb the volume of goods that China previously exported to the United States. We're witnessing an economic heart attack in slow motion. The impact is devastating. Millions of workers sit idle, with industries near collapse. The effects spread throughout China, from Guangdong to Jiangsu province." President Xi Jinping maintains an unwavering stance amid this crisis. Despite factory closures and public discontent, Chinese leadership shows no signs of compromise. Sources suggest maintaining political control takes precedence over economic considerations. "We will respond to U.S. actions," declared a senior Chinese official anonymously, "even if it leads to a full-scale war, be it trade, tariff, or otherwise." This stance reflects China's approach in other international disputes, where economic considerations are secondary to political objectives. The crisis exposes the vulnerability of China's export-dependent model and raises questions about global trade relations. As factories shut down and unemployment rises, the world watches anxiously to see whether this economic standoff between the world's two largest economies will escalate further. Analysts warn this situation could trigger a global economic downturn, affecting markets worldwide. The coming weeks may prove crucial in determining whether Beijing will maintain its position or seek compromise to prevent further economic deterioration. Breaking news. Economic showdown between global powers reaches critical point. In what's becoming the most significant economic battle of our time, the clash between American and Chinese markets has reached a pivotal moment. Our analysis reveals the high stakes in this economic confrontation. The United States, as the world's largest consumer market, is projected to reach $5.4 trillion in consumer spending by 2025, representing nearly 70% of the American economy. This massive purchasing power is reshaping global economic landscapes. China's dependency on American consumers has reached critical levels. In 2024, Chinese exports to the United States exceeded $450 billion, nearly 4 times what America sends back to China, with U.S. exports to China at just $120 billion. Think about that disparity. It's like having a store where one customer accounts for most of your sales, and suddenly, that customer starts shopping elsewhere. The impact is devastating, and that's exactly what's happening to China's export-driven economy. Despite Beijing's attempts to diversify its export destinations, no other market matches the purchasing power of American consumers. This isn't just a temporary setback, it's a potential economic catastrophe with long-term implications. The Chinese government faces a difficult choice: either adapt to new economic realities or risk a devastating economic downturn that could shake their economic model's foundations. For American consumers and businesses, the implications are far-reaching. We're witnessing the potential restructuring of global economic power dynamics. This situation continues to develop, with new tariffs and trade policies reshaping how these two economic giants interact. Remember, this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about real businesses, jobs, and the future of global trade. Stay tuned as we continue to monitor these developments and their impact on markets worldwide. In a shocking revelation that's sending ripples through the global economy, China's desperate attempts to replace the U.S. market have hit a massive wall. Sources indicate that Beijing's strategy to diversify its export destinations is failing spectacularly, exposing the fragility of the world's second-largest economy. China's exports to the European Union reached approximately $515 billion in 2024. However, it's nowhere near enough to offset their American market dependency. The Europeans, dealing with high inflation and reduced purchasing power, can't absorb the additional $450 billion worth of Chinese goods that would need to be redirected from the U.S. market. The situation mirrors economic standoffs elsewhere, Like Russia's struggles to find new energy customers, China is discovering that replacing the US market is nearly impossible. Africa, often touted as China's great hope for market expansion, isn't living up to expectations. Despite Beijing's aggressive push into the continent, African nations lack the economic muscle to replace American demand. Poor infrastructure and weak economies make it an unrealistic alternative. The myth that China could redirect its exports to other markets has been debunked. This revelation comes as U.S. tariffs continue to squeeze Chinese factories, leading to widespread economic distress. Chinese manufacturers are finding themselves in a desperate situation, with no viable alternatives. What makes this concerning is the Chinese government's response. Instead of addressing these economic challenges head-on, Beijing appears focused on maintaining political control and restricting public discourse about the crisis. The implications are clear. China cannot afford to lose its largest customer, the United States. Any significant reduction in U.S.-China trade would deliver a devastating blow to the Chinese economy, impossible to compensate through other markets. This reality gives Washington significant leverage in trade negotiations, potentially reshaping the global economic landscape. In a stark revelation about global economic dynamics, no market matches the scale of American consumption. 1 in every $3 spent globally flows from American wallets. While the European Union has 450 million citizens, their purchasing power pales compared to the U.S. market. Even with nearly 500 million people working in China, their collective spending amounts to only 1/5 of American consumption levels. This reality check has become increasingly painful for Beijing, as the myth of easily replacing the American market crumbles. Despite China's ambitious initiatives, particularly the Belt and Road Project across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, these strategies require years to bear fruit. Chinese factories, traditionally export-oriented, face an impossible task of pivoting to domestic demand. The gap is too wide and time is running short. As pressure mounts without alternatives, Chinese authorities are reverting to tactics reminiscent of 1989's Tiananmen Square incident. Today's battle is fought in the information sphere. The government has tightened its grip on media coverage, particularly regarding factory closures and the trade war's impact. Social media platforms operate under surveillance, with authorities punishing those who criticize government policies during the crisis. This censorship campaign serves a clear purpose: preventing public questioning of the leadership's handling of the economic downturn. State media crafts narratives while suppressing reports of business failures and job losses. The government's priority appears to be maintaining political stability over addressing economic challenges. The situation mirrors historical patterns of control, but with modern digital tools enabling more comprehensive surveillance and censorship. As Chinese factories struggle and workers face uncertainty, the government's response has been to intensify information control rather than implement economic solutions. This approach may maintain order, but risks masking the true extent of the crisis from both domestic and international observers. In a significant development reshaping global trade, China's Communist Party faces unprecedented challenges maintaining economic stability while trying to control public sentiment. Sources reveal Beijing's attempts to find alternative trading partners have failed, with no nation capable of filling the void left by reduced U.S. trade. The government's strategy follows two paths: pushing for economic self-sufficiency through domestic production, and tightening control on information flow. However, experts say these measures are more symbolic than practical, given China's global economic integration. What we're seeing is political theater overshadowing economic reality, says Dr. Marcus Chen, trade specialist. The Communist Party is prioritizing control over solutions. U.S. tariffs have devastated Chinese industries. From electronics to manufacturing, businesses struggle to maintain profitability. A Chinese copper components manufacturer reports delayed orders, high customs fees, and rising costs making operations nearly impossible. The situation resembles challenges faced by the former Soviet Republic during its transition, though China's case is unique due to its scale and global impact. Recent data shows Chinese exports becoming too expensive for American consumers, causing sharp demand decline. This affects not just companies but entire industrial sectors, creating ripple effects throughout the economy. The party's response has been to increase propaganda, while businesses continue closing. Economic indicators show declining manufacturing output, rising unemployment, and cautious foreign investment. As Beijing struggles to maintain control, the core issue remains: China's dependence on the American market. Without substantial reforms and strategy to diversify trade relationships, experts predict this crisis could mark a turning point in China's economic trajectory. Breaking news from Asia reveals a deepening crisis in Chinese manufacturing as U.S. tariffs continue to devastate export-dependent businesses. Sources report unprecedented challenges, with many industry leaders facing bankruptcy. Major exporters built around American demand face severe difficulties. Even stable niche markets like book exports are under serious threat. Business owners are breaking their silence on social media to share stories of hardship. These testimonials reveal not just failing businesses, but crumbling communities. Factory owners describe their life's work disappearing, with devastating effects on employees' families and local economies. Many have invested decades building enterprises, only to watch them potentially vanish. Beijing has attempted to gain support from Vietnam, Cambodia, and India. However, these diplomatic efforts have failed, exposing China's growing isolation. These potential allies are in negotiations with Washington and unwilling to take sides in this conflict. The Chinese Communist Party has responded by using Western social media platforms, despite banning them within China, to spread anti-American messaging. Their campaign portrays the United States as intentionally hampering Chinese economic growth. This crisis mirrors challenges in the northern Black Sea region, where trade disruptions have led to business failures. China's situation is unique due to its scale and global implications. Notable is the contrast between official state messaging, projecting economic strength, and ground reality. Small and medium-sized businesses report significant struggles. The government's focus on political messaging rather than economic solutions has left business owners feeling abandoned and increasingly vocal, despite potential consequences. Economic analysts reveal a stark contrast between China's official narrative of 5% annual growth and the harsh reality facing businesses. Our investigation uncovers how Beijing's propaganda machine works to maintain an image of stability while masking serious problems in the world's second-largest economy. The Chinese Communist Party's trade policies increasingly resemble a performance rather than genuine economic solutions. Their aggressive approach to steel production is raising alarm bells across global markets. Beijing heavily subsidizes its steel industry, covering costs for land, raw materials, and providing preferential lending. This state support enables Chinese manufacturers to flood markets with steel priced below what Western competitors can match. It's not just about making money, it's about control. This is economic warfare by other means, says Dr. Marcus Chen, senior fellow at the Global Trade Institute. China's strategy mirrors military tactics. Instead of bombing factories, they're making them economically obsolete. The impact has been devastating for American steel producers. Several major U.S. mills have filed for bankruptcy, unable to compete with Chinese prices that fall below production costs. Industry experts warn this goes beyond market competition. Beijing's endgame is control over strategically crucial industries, explains former Commerce Secretary William Ross. By demolishing foreign manufacturing capabilities, China gains leverage over global supply chains. This strategy parallels similar efforts in semiconductors, rare earth minerals, and other vital sectors. Chinese authorities appear willing to absorb losses to achieve dominance, like military strategists sacrificing tactical advantages for strategic goals. Meanwhile, domestic Chinese businesses struggle under mounting pressure, creating a gap between state propaganda and economic reality. In today's breaking news, we're examining what appears to be the most significant economic showdown of our time. What looks like ordinary competition is actually an intense battle for global supremacy, with China at the center of this high-stakes game. China isn't just trying to sell more products. Their strategy goes beyond market expansion. They're orchestrating a master plan to become an indispensable player in the global economy, creating dependencies that could reshape the world order. However, this aggressive approach is starting to backfire. Nations are waking up to the threat posed by the flooding of markets with cheap Chinese goods. They're beginning to push back, and this resistance is gaining momentum. Despite China's industrial might and bold declarations, there's an elephant in the room: their continued dependence on the United States. This uncomfortable truth is something Chinese authorities are reluctant to acknowledge, but it's a critical weakness in their position. The question remains, who will blink first in this economic war? The stakes are high. The outcome could alter the global economic landscape for generations. As this situation evolves, we're seeing parallels with other global conflicts, similar to what we've witnessed in the former Soviet Republic near Russia's western border. The patterns of economic warfare and strategic positioning bear similarities. Who do you think will emerge victorious from this economic battlefield? Can China find a way out of this predicament? Share your insights in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated on these global power plays. This story is far from over, and the implications for world trade and international relations are enormous. Thank you for tuning in. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, in today's interconnected world, economic battles can have consequences far beyond the marketplace. Until next time, this is your trusted source for global economic insights.